So today we're going to be discussing about chapter 1, data processing and information, everything according to the syllabus. So let's get started. It's going to be quick and simple. So let's go through these chapters. So the first chapter is data processing and information. The unit is 1.1 for today's video, data and information. So let's start. So what is data? It is raw or unprocessed data which has no meaning. Raw and unprocessed data which has no meaning. So, what can be an example of a piece of data? What if I write a number such as 1216? Does this make any sense to you? It's just a number, 1216. Can be many things. This could be a price of something, but it's a piece of data. We don't know what it actually means, right? So, I can write another example. Let's say A07, right? This seems like a code, but do you know what it means? You don't. These are data. It is raw and processed data which has no meaning. So these pieces of data have no meaning. That is why they are data. So now let's move on. We have information. What is information? It is data with context and meaning. So it is data with context and meaning. How about I turn these pieces of data into information? How can I do that? So what if I say that this 1216 right here, it is a postal code. Now what I'm going to do is this. It is a postal code. So now what we have done is we have given it context and meaning, right? It is a postal code for what? It is a postal code for Dhaka. So if you do not know what is Dhaka, Dhaka is the capital of Bangladesh. So now I have given it meaning. So now this is not just data, it is information because now it has meaning. Now let me give you another example right here. A07. What does A07 stand for? What I can say is that it is a Samsung phone model code, right? It is a Samsung phone model code or a phone model number, whatever you say. So it doesn't have to be necessarily Samsung. It is just for an example. You know, when they ask you questions, you can give it any type of context, or you can say it is a phone model code or it is a phone number. So this is just an example. You will get once we do the question papers, it will make more sense and it will be more simpler. You can just say it's a Samsung phone code, whatever. Now, this A07 is not just data, it is information because now we know it is a phone model code for a certain company, right? So now let's move on. What is direct and indirect data? Direct data is data that has been collected from the source for a specific purpose and used for only that purpose. So, what can be the examples of direct sources? It can be questionnaires, it can be interviews, or it can be such as, let's say, I'm trying to open a coaching center, right? So I'm in a certain area. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be going around schools where there are children, where there are mothers, fathers. So I'm going to be going around this area and I'm going to see how many schools are there. What subject is the most selected subject? I'm trying to teach IT. How many kids are there who have taken IT? Will it be a proper place to open a coaching center? So I am directly, what I can do is directly go to the school, ask the children or ask their parents what subject their children is studying and will they be interested to sending them to a private tutor or a coaching center. So this is questionnaire. I'm directly asking them a specific set of questions and they're giving the data directly to me. So this is for one purpose. It is to identify if this place will be the best area to open a coaching center for and collect data on what subjects they are actually reading, and if I will be able to provide the service. So this is completely one purpose, right? To actually see if I can open a coaching center and thrive. And so this is direct sources because I'm directly asking them and they're directly providing the information to me. There are no third party involved. So this is direct data for a specific purpose and used for only that purpose. So this is direct data collected from the source, right? This is something you should remember. Now, next one. What is indirect data? Indirect data is data that is obtained from a third party and used for a different purpose than which it was originally collected for. So indirect data can be like such as a registry of customers in a supermarket. So let's say when you're buying something from a supermarket, uh, when you're buying something from a supermarket, you are actually providing your information, let's say your phone number or email address. So as a third party, so let's say I am a type of guy who wants to sell gym equipment, right? I want to sell some stuff which can help you decrease your weight. So what I'm going to do is I need to find customers. I need to find customers who will be able to who will like my product and would like to buy my product. So IT is very business related, right? So I'm going to go to the nearest supermarket and I'm going to say, hey, I need your customer registry. I need their emails and I need their phone number. So I will pay a good sum of money and they're going to provide me that data. And with that data, I can create is a mailing list. Now, you have to know that why is the supermarket collecting data in the first place? So they can keep track of their customers or to actually see what the customers are really buying or what they're interested in. They have a specific purpose. But my purpose is different. I want to sell them one specific type of supplement or gym, something that my purpose is different from the supermarket purpose. So you can read here is indirect data is data that is obtained from a third party. So that supermarket is the third party and used for a different purpose than that which it was originally collected for. Now another example is, you see when you go to certain websites they enable cookies and stuff. That can be direct data, but if they're sold to a third party and they use it to maybe arrange a type of scam, that can be indirect data. We'll be going through more of this later on. So let's move on. And the notes, I will be providing some notes in the description with more better information, so it will become more easy for you to understand. Now let's solve this question. This will open a lot of things to your mind. Okay. I should do it like this. Yes, no, it's okay. Explain what is meant by an indirect data source. In your explanation, include descriptions of two different indirect data sources. So let's solve this quickly. So what I can write is, okay, explain what is an indirect data source. So if we go back to the definition, we can write exactly this definition, or I can write it like it is data which is obtained from a third. So wait, it looks like it's missing. I'm going to do this feature again. Easy. So it is data which is obtained from a third party and used for a different purpose than which it was originally. So it is data which is obtained from a third party and used for a different purpose than which it was originally collected for. This is what indirect data stands for. So what can be the examples? The examples can be census. It can be a census. It can be a electoral register, or it can be or I have already provided two indirect data sources, but I'm just writing another one. It can be a supermarket customer registry, right? So it can be a census. You're going to read what a census is. It can be an electoral register, an electoral register. It can be a supermarket customer register. So what is a census? Let me explain a bit. Census is a type of human population calculation done by the government of a certain country. Every country it is done. You will read more about it. It can be an electoral register. So this actually is, it stays on your local areas. So basically it collects the data of people who are eligible to vote in the election. So people above 18 plus or 18. It can be a supermarket customer registry like I talked about. Okay, now let's move on to the next one. So let's see if we are actually correct. So I'm going to zoom in a bit, zoom, and then we have the mark scheme right here. So data has been collected for a particular slash different purpose, but then that data is used for something else. So we have clearly mentioned that in our answers. Max 2 from the electoral register is a list of adults who are entitled to vote in a local national elections. Customers in stores often provide personal information when they buy products. So yeah, basically I messed something up, is that you also need to actually give some context of the electoral register or the census or the customer registry, but I mentioned this one, so it's correct. Now let's solve another question. So here's a set of data for this question, and they have given us a few symbols. Explain why this is just a set of data and describe how this particular set of data would become information. Okay, so what I need to explain why these symbols are just pieces of data and why they are not information and how we can turn them into information. So I'm going to be writing is these, wait, what this set of symbols have no meaning or context and is raw and unprocessed. That is why they are data. So this is my answer. What I'm going to be doing is just select this. Okay, we have it right here. I'm going to be making this bigger. Make it 24. Okay. This set of symbols have no meaning or context and is raw and unprocessed. That is why they're data. The answer is a bit smaller, but I just wrote every detail possible so you can understand. And in order for them to turn into information, we need to give them context. Okay, describe how this set of data would become information. To make them into information, they can be given context. For example, so now what I can do is, now we have symbols like this, right? We have symbols like this. Now I can say that this symbol means greater. This symbols means, yeah, greater than, and then the other you can give less than. Oh, this two should switch places, my bad, right? And then you can write for this one you have is the symbol like this with an equal to an open mouth. You can write it greater or equal to. So you can give all, you need to give all of these symbols meaning, and you're going to be writing it beautifully on your copies or on your question papers. So let's go to the mark scheme. I want to see what they did. So we have max 4 marks, max 3 from here. Information is data which has context and meaning and has been processed. This data can become information if meaning/context is added, except any indication that meaning or context is key to data being information. And I think we have mentioned that. So this data, and I've clearly wrote that this data, it has no context/meaning, it doesn't explain what each symbol means, must clearly refer to the set of data, which I did, it is raw. So I've wrote this definitely. Any valid context. The context for this set of data could be that it can be used in search criteria in spreadsheets. The symbol would then be given meaning. So one thing to mention is here we must write something. We must give some context. Like, so I have written, to make them into information, they can be given context. For example, I haven't just gone into this. I should have wrote is that they can be used as mathematical operators, right? Greater or less than or function, you use it in range, domain and stuff. So I'm going to join this, just this EZ. Yeah, they can be used as mathematical operators. So any type of context you want to give, you can also use this one as well. And then you have to also, let's check the other one. Then we have is that any valid context can be used in such criteria and spreadsheets. This is also correct. You can also write that the symbols would then be given meaning. So I've given the meaning, like this means greater than, this means less than, equal means equal to, means greater or equal to. So 2 marks for 4 correct meaning. So 2 marks for, so you have to give the meaning to all of these symbols, right? So now we can move on to our next one. We have sources of direct data. Now, what we have is questionnaires. As I mentioned, we have questionnaires, interviews, observations. These are sources of direct data because you're getting it right from the source. So if we read it, there are a set of arranged questions that can be distributed to people online or physically, Google Forms, if you want to do it online or physically, in order to collect data from individuals. They are user-friendly and easier to distribute and analyze information since all respondents answer the same questions. Easy to distribute and analyze information. These are 2 key points. I will be giving you guys a table so you can know the advantages and disadvantages, because they do ask questions about questionnaires and interviews a lot. So moving on to interviews, they're one-to-one meeting between interviewee and an interviewer in which questions are asked by an interviewer to interviewee to get information. They can be close-ended questions. This is the most important part. They can be close-ended questions which can make it easier to quantify the responses or they can be open-ended questions to get more in-depth detail. So you see, in interviews, you are able to change the questions or go more in-depth if you want to get better quality data. Now moving on, let's we can do is that we'll be reading observations. Okay. Now we have observation, a method of collecting data by watching an event slash activity and then analyzing it and recording the data. So what I can do is go to a Travis Scott concert and be just like this, standing and observing and seeing what these kids are gonna vibe like, which dance are they gonna be doing, or what drinks, or maybe. Okay. Okay. That was- So we have observe So we have observation, a method of collecting data by watching an event slash activity and then analyzing it and recording the data. The observer gets the information firsthand rather than from a third party. So basic observation is, what, you can stand in a concert like this and then observe what the people are doing, how the activity is going on, what are they liking, what are they not liking, how many people have actually attended the Travis Scott concert, and how many people sadly got killed by getting trampled over. You're observing, right? So this is a method of collecting data by watching an event slash activity and then analyzing and recording the data. And now we have one of the most best data logging, I mean, direct source of data, which is data logging. The use of sensors and computers to gather, we'll go to the next page, zoom in, analyze data, allowing to be saved or represented as an output in graphs, charts, etc. It is most likely to be used in scientific experiments where human intervention isn't suitable, such as a situation which requires continuous monitoring and gathering of data. So for this data logging, I think you should remember one of the best examples. Now if they ask you, why is it that data logging is such an important thing, like they have already mentioned, it is most likely to be used in scientific experiments where human intervention isn't suitable, such as a situation which requires continuous monitoring and gathering of data. So this can be a nuclear reactor. So basically you've got maybe a type of nuclear reactor or something like that, where there are chemicals where a human cannot be present there, but you can put on uh, sensors to actually data log the temperature. Maybe it's 114 degrees Celsius, right? Or maybe 112. So this is what is data logging. It is logging data by using sensors. So moving on to the next one, we have sources of indirect data. So I think I've already mentioned electoral register. It is a record of citizens that are eligible to vote in an election. It contains a list of their personal data such as legal name, address, contact information, etc. Some of the data is removed from the open version of the register, which is accessible to organization and public for certain use, depending on the local law. So some information definitely has to be hidden, otherwise you're basically giving away everything about yourself, right? So now we have this business collecting info when used by third parties. Businesses sell the information, like you can buy some information from supermarket that they collect from their customers. For example, when someone purchases something online and they are often asked to tick a box authorizing the business to share this with other organizations. I think you can read this on the note I will provide, and let's move on to the next one. Okay, zoom out a little bit. Okay, now we have advantages of direct data. So we have what is written here is source of data is known, hence we know how reliable it is, because you are collecting the data, you know how reliable you are, or you know how reliable your employee is. So the source of data is known, hence we know how reliable it is. And it so by this you can actually trust the data, or actually know how reliable is it, if the data was actually properly collected or it is a fake type of data with false samples or false reviews and stuff. So let's move on to the next one. Only required data is gathered, hence it's very relevant. Data can be sold later as indirect data for other purposes. Data is likely to be up to date. Okay, this should be up to date, not up to data. My bad. Source of okay, so data is likely to be up to. These are one of the most commonly asked questions in the information data and information chapter. So you must memorize all of them by heart, especially this one, advantages of direct data. They're going to be asking like data is likely to be up to date. This is a very important point. Okay, moving on to the next one. What we have is data can be easily presented in required format as preferred and suitable sources used. So this is completely up to you. When you're collecting the data, you can either choose it to use it in an Excel file. You can either choose it to store it in a Google form. You can choose it to be written in a notepad. It's completely up to you. So it can be easily presented in the way you want because you have collected the data the way you like and the way you store it. So it's completely up to you. So yeah, it's really easy. So now these advantages of direct data. It can take a long time to gather data than to acquire data from already existing indirect data source. So basically indirect data sources are easily available because we have data brokers, we have companies who sell data or collect data, so you can readily buy all sorts of data from them. But you do not know how reliable they are, right? So if you want to collect the data, it's gonna take a lot of time. So this is what they said. It can take a lot of time to gather data than to acquire data from already an existing indirect source, which is third party basically. Larger samples can be difficult to collect, can be more expensive than indirect data due to preparation and gathering of required data, such as producing questionnaires or buying additional equipment. Such data loggers. Data might be out of my bad. This is date when the project is completed. So what this means is that basically it takes a long time to gather data. So let's say you're collecting data in 2019, so you have completed taking the data within 2020, right? But then COVID hits. Now your data is completely out of date. So this is a real issue when you are directly collecting data. And then can be expensive than indirect data due to preparation. So this is another point you can say is that where you have to travel from places to places. So let's say you live in Bangladesh and you want to collect data from Nepal. So you're going to have to go to fly to Nepal. So this is going to be an issue. It's going to be costly. And then let's move on. We have advantages of indirect data. The data is readily available, such as brokers. And then the next one allows larger set of data to be examined with less time and cost involved in comparison with direct data. As data brokers, they are people or organizations who collect data. They already have a lot of employees and they are professionals. So a larger set of data can always be collected by them. A larger sample size can be used. Allows data to be gathered from subjects, from example people, which the gatherer doesn't have physical access to. So basically, you're living in Bangladesh and you want to collect data from Nepal. So let's say it's a very stormy season and then you are not able to access that location. So you can trust the data brokers. This is the advantages of indirect data. Now, disadvantages of indirect data can be less reliable as source may be unknown. My bad. Who's gonna be? No, can be less reliable and source may be unknown. So you do not know the source. Not all data will be relevant. So as I said, indirect data might have been collected from another purpose. So there might be some information which you do not need. Now then we have might be difficult to extract data as it would be in wrong format. So let's say you are trying to maybe collect your data in a notepad, but the data is in Excel. This is just an example. Or maybe the data is in a notebook and you want to turn it into Excel, or if you want to transfer the data into Excel. It's going to be an issue because the format might be different. So I'm moving on to the next one. There may be sampling bias. Data collected certain purposes from only certain sample would not give an accurate answer for the purpose it's being used now. So there could be biases. So let's say you're avoiding certain racial group of people. You know, there can be racism. Yes, so it can depend on a lot of factors. So for today, uh, so that's it for today's chapter. And for in the next video, we will be doing 1.2, which is quality of information. So take care, and the notes will be given in the description.